things out. And I've been trying to find themes, like trying to find the thing that kind of draws everything together. And actually wasn't that hard this year. I'm just brought back to this image that Katie Kingery-Page showed earlier. And I immediately recognized in this image something that I've been really interested in lately, and that is the role of play in learning. And there happens to be like this virtuous cycle of play that people talk about in the literature that's really interesting, that's actually really well illustrated here. Basically, when people are at play, when kids are at play, when we're at play, a number of things happen. The first thing is that people have a sense of co-ownership. They're co-creating the play as they play. You can see this in children as they co-create any sort of game that they're playing together. That creates a sense of connection, and that connection then creates a sense of trust. This then has a positive effect in other ways, because once people have this sense of trust, they feel like they can take chances. And once they start taking chances, that increases the novelty. They start to create new things. Their creativity rises. And ultimately, that elevates their engagement. And then that cycles back through and creates this virtuous cycle where they have more co-ownership, connection, trust, and so on. So this is obviously something we would love to have in our classrooms, but it's something that traditional classrooms actually work directly against. It even is true when you take at play itself. Play is under attack in our society. We have play in which we've basically drawn up all the lines, and some people really like these lines and some people don't. And then we have officials with rules, and then people stand on the sideline and they decide what a score is and what counts as a score, and they cheer them along. And some people just aren't even good enough, so they take the bench. And this is the formalization of play. This is not free play. This is not the virtuous cycle form of play. This is a very different kind of play. And it's no wonder then that when the students come into our rooms, they're actually, the questions that immediately come to their mind are questions about score. How do you keep the score here? What are the rules? What are the guidelines? What do I need to do? This is not opening up to that intrinsic motivation that Ashley talked about in the beginning. This is my son, and this is a great illustration of what learning is really all about. This is him learning how to go downstairs. I have 59 of these, and I'm going to make you watch them all. All right, I'll stop there. Just a couple more. He's starting to get it. This is filmed over several months. He smiles every time. He gets laughs, he gets back up, and there you go. This is this beautiful illustration of what real learning is like, right? And somehow we don't allow this in our classrooms. We create the lines and these categories. And these have certain effects, and they're really quite bad on everybody. It may look like the people over here in the A's are quite happy, but they can become very complacent. You know this at the end of the semester. They start calculating, like, how many points do I need to hold my A, and if it's not many, they might just coast. And so it's not really diving into that intrinsic motivation and getting them interested. And of course, we've totally disenfranchised the D's and the F's for really no good reason. Sometimes they can have remarkable potential that we're not seeing. So what I want to do here is propose kind of a different model. We've got the fancy music to close this out now. And the different model looks like this. Like, imagine organizing your course as if like there's a bunch of people on the bottom of this mountain, and at the top you've got something worth it, and you make them feel that it's worth it. So at the very beginning there's buy-in, there's co-ownership, the sense of connection, and they start climbing this mountain, and you've scaffolded it so that they can see that they can make it. They have these platforms they can make it up to. So people start climbing, and a lot of them make it quite quickly up to that first platform, but some people need some help. So I only give one grade in this regard. I give A's and not yets. And those folks get not yets. And then you say, okay, everybody, let's help these people up. And it's amazing what happens at this point. People start reaching out, helping each other, and everybody makes it to that first platform. And then you frame the next piece. And by the next piece, people are starting to hit their stride. They're starting to realize we can work together. This is that connection and trust that's building. And they make it to that next platform. Then things get really hard. This is the moment where we're at right now in this semester. Things are bound to get hard because a real project takes real struggle. And so they struggle, but they struggle together and they make their way. And at this point, you start to feel this momentum, and it's just something, just a real joy that I've shared not only with Jordan and Kinsey last year with the project they did that you just saw, but so many other students. When you get to this point, you really start to feel this rhythm building. You can see the top, and you start racing up there, and you make it your way. But what's interesting about this moment is that you realize at this moment that this is not just about this final project. It's not so final after all anyway, because the real project was you. That you've changed somehow in this process. I'm going to cry because I've seen Jordan and Kinsey do this, and I've seen other people do this too. And that's what's worth it. And that's what we saw tonight, I think, was so many people building these structures that can do this. Because Jordan and Kinsey, I love your video, but what I really care about is you and how you've changed. So Ashley kicked things off tonight immediately with this call to play, this call to like doodle and do things, and it has a real effect. It does, the virtuous cycle is all there. Co-ownership, connection, trust, taking chances, increasing novelty, and elevating engagement. These things may seem silly, but you know exactly what they do. And look who's having the most fun in here. I don't know if you guys caught this, but do you guys see Ashley over here? There's a real joy in this type of teaching, and it gets you starting to see connections. Your creativity blossoms. You start to see across boundaries and across disciplines, which we saw tonight as well. People opening up to new ideas and creating beautiful works of art out of science. And that creates then a sense of trust as well. So you have this co-ownership connection, and then trust is built. Trust allows you to open up and do that kind of embodied learning that we heard about from Sally Bailey. And once you have that you can start taking chances and start opening yourself up to more creativity, like we saw with Roger McKinney earlier, with cussing. And then this magnificent piece here, once you start taking chances, you increase novelty, your creativity blossoms. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but this is literally thinking outside the box, right? This is remote sensing, looking outside the box. And then this one is literally outside the lines. And Nation, I bleed purple, I've bled purple my whole life. The 2003 Big 12 championship was amazing. This is better. And once we start taking chances, increasing novelty, and our creativity is blossoming, our awareness starts to change. And I think that's such a key takeaway from Katie's beautiful presentation. And then finally, we come to Jordan and Kinsey, and we see that the real piece here is not just the beautiful video they made, but how they themselves changed, and how we realize this sort of lifetime of learning that we're helping to create. This is so important today to be able to laugh in the face of failure and celebrate our successes. And actually then realize that what we're doing for students is not just about getting a job or even just being good citizens, but actually preparing them for a beautiful life, a life of happiness. There was this great quote from DeLeo, who just wrote this great book about college, and he says, he's giving this talk at Columbia about what college is all about, and he said, well, it's all about, not just vocation, but also citizenship. And this old man stood up at the end and he said, I think you missed the point. College taught me how to be happy. And it's important because this co-ownership, connection, trust that leads to increased novelty and engagement is something that becomes a practice for your life. And it's not just about something you do in the classroom, but it actually allows you to be more engaged in your life as well. So I just want to thank everybody tonight. It's such a beautiful night, and it makes me so proud to be here at K-State with all of you. Thank you. Quickly follow up. This is what Jordan and Kinsey did after this video. After they did the video, Jordan took off for Mexico on his bike, made it all the way to Colombia, right? Is that where you ended up? Where are you at? Yeah. And then Kinsey traveled the world, went to Europe, and she's now starting a bug business in which she sells bug protein. Is that coming along? Yeah. This is thinking outside the box and living a creative life. Beautiful stuff.